evening and welcome. This is IPEN Podcast, Interviews and Conversations. I'm Nanette Buchanan. My guest host and partner is Felice Reeves. And our guest tonight is Aaron Woodson. So we're going to jump right into it because you guys already know IPEN Podcast is for entrepreneurs, business people, authors, actors, singers, whatever you do. If you're into the community, if you're activists, whatever it is, we want to know what you do, and we want to help you get on other platforms to show others what you do. We love to collaborate. We love to talk about what's going on. And more than that, we love to know who you are. So with that, I want to introduce my co-host, partner in crime, Felice Reeves.
Yes, I'm glad to be the partner in crime to Nanette Buchanan. Thank you so much. I'm super excited to hear all about our special guest this evening, but I am Felice Reeves. I too am an entrepreneur, but I love to say that I'm a celebrator of entrepreneurs because I love to help them in any way possible to bring their offering to the world. So without further ado, I'm gonna hand it back to you, Nanette, and let's get started.
Yes, I want to introduce to everyone, those that know and those that don't know, Mr. Aaron Woodson. We met Mr. Woodson, author, entrepreneur, writer of script. Because when we say author, it doesn't always mean that you're into script. So we need to identify that he also writes script. He's an author and a script writer. Ex-military man. You would think he would be tired of doing a whole lot of work and he wouldn't be doing a whole lot of that stuff. But he's a retired military. He's been all over the world. So I just want him to say something about himself that maybe, just maybe, I didn't know. Tell us something about you, Mr. Woodson, and welcome to IPEN Podcast, Interviews and Conversations.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. It's an honor. My name is Aaron Woodson. I'm from Vallejo, California, San Francisco Bay Area. I moved here to Jacksonville, Florida about 6 years ago now. And prior to that, I was in the Air Force, U.S. Air Force. I served a total of 15 years. And, I'm a combat veteran. So, I've been in places such as Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and I also was in Korea as well. And so, I definitely spent a lot of time away from family, away from the U.S. And it's just good to finally come back and, enjoy normalcy again, somewhat normalcy until COVID happened. And so a lot of changes.
A lot of things to go through. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
now let me ask you that just in that statement that you just made, going to all of those various countries, and as we well know, we're not naive to the fact that every country has a different rule and they have different standards and they have different things, and of course different time changes and everything else. But are there other countries that were more or less closed down at different times with different mandates, such as a pandemic mandate?
Well, around that time when I was in, I know, currently is what you're saying?
No, I'm talking about when you were going around, because a lot of people have brought up, well, in China, they've wore the mask for years. They already knew about wearing masks. In such and such, they did this. Were there any restrictions that you knew in other countries that were as stimulate, as this?
No, not that I've ever been aware of or privy to.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So a traveling man. That means that as a traveling man, you got a lot of stories. Stories.
I do.
So, and speaking of that, because as when you popped on, I was like, oh, man on the go. So it looks like you're always, or you're very accustomed to being on the go. And I was an Army brat growing up through and through and lived many different places. But tell us so you were in the Air Force and in combat. maybe you aren't allowed to tell us exactly what you did, but if you can, tell us that. And then how did you transition from military life, not only to civilian life, but becoming an author? How'd that happen?
Well, just, going into, the Air Force as a young man, I was in security forces. So my job was basic. I had a very important job. My job was to pretty much guard and protect personnel and property of the U.S. Air Force. We would always get deployed to different locations. And I just remember just being there, just working a lot of hours at different places like, Kuwait and Iraq, just being mission focused, being combat ready, making sure that, I had good cohesion with my team. And, I actually led a team to Iraq when I was young. I'm still young, but I mean, look at me.
I'm glad you recognize that, because
I was 20. I was 24 then when I led a team to Iraq, and one of the missions that we had, at least I led a team to, a quick response force team. And I remember one day we were searching detainees because we were doing detainee operations. And, it was just a normal routine day. It was a hot day in Iraq, and it's like scorching hot over there. Yeah. So, one day you hear a whistling sound, a loud whistling noise in the distance. You hear, and, we were trained like, okay, this is it. We got to hit the deck. We were already geared up and everything. And we heard that loud boom. And so, because we didn't have any cover, really, we just had to like literally hit the floor on the sand. And so we gather ourselves wondering what the heck is going on. And it was some confusion, but, at that point we had to react. And, we got on a 5-ton deuce, which is a military vehicle that was commonly used. We head over to where the blast hit. And I just remember a lot of chaos where the detainees busted through the fence line that we housed them in. And we were thinking that some of our guys may have gotten hit. And luckily that day, nothing happened to our forces, thankfully. But we still had to render support and help to the detainees, the enemy. Yeah, and it was a tense and hostile situation.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So then again,
so transitioning.
Yeah, go ahead, Nanette.
Yeah. So transitioning should have been a theme of thank you.
Thank God. Yes, I thank God every chance I got when I got back to the States. I mean, it was a sigh of relief. He delivered me from being overseas 4 times. I'm just so thankful to God. Because there's some people that weren't so fortunate or lucky.
Of course.
Right.
Of course. So do you feel in that gratitude, and I don't want to speak for you, but this is a question, in that gratitude, it shows up in your work? Because I feel, that of course, everyone is given a gift, but not many people acknowledge or recognize that it is from God, the gift that is given. So how do you feel about your gift and then giving back or transitioning into that space of walking in your gift?
I feel that the gift was given to me by God, just not for me, but it was just a way to communicate, to give him glory. It's just important to always give God the glory, because he's the giver of it, and he could take it away.
Absolutely.
And I'm just so glad to have the gift of writing. I think writing has definitely, before we had, social media, before we had TV, what did we have? Books and writing.
Yeah.
And so writing was just a good way to communicate, and it's really personable, and you could get a lot of things out off your chest if you needed to, write what was on your heart, get things off your mind. And I really appreciate it. I appreciate writing because it's very cathartic, therapeutic. And I guess to answer your other part of your question, about what was that, the part of your gift?
Living, kind of like acknowledging your gift, and is it a reflection of the giver of the gift, right?
Yes. It definitely, to answer your question, it definitely is a reflection of the giver of the gift, because without God, I mean, I wouldn't even possess the skill to write. I wouldn't even know how to write if it wasn't for him. I just want to write for God, and he gave me, or he uses me as a vessel to do his work.
Yes.
All right.
Well, thank you for being responsive to that.
Yes. And we are so thankful for having Mr. Woodson. He will be with us for the month of March. Every Friday, we will be posting his episodes. And this is the conclusion of episode 1. We're going to go right into episode 2. And we want you to follow us each and every Friday. And we thank you, Mr. Woodson, for being here with us on iPen Interviews and Conversations.